Madam Ambassador, good to see you. Thank you for coming by the station here.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be in Dallas.
Well, we appreciate you being here in Texas. I want to ask you about what's happening in the Middle East, though. The latest talks for a ceasefire have fallen through. Months of talks haven't resulted in anything. What's it going to take to get a deal?
Look, the talks have not fallen through. They are continuing to push forward. We continue to be hopeful, as I've said over and over again, because we know that this peace deal is what is necessary to get the hostages released, to get more humanitarian assistance into the people of Gaza, and for a longer term ceasefire. So again, it's difficult. It's not easy. They have stumbled, but they have not fallen apart.
So you wouldn't characterize it as being done by any means?
You know, I'm not on the ground. I know that they're continuing to push forward, and I'm hopeful that this will continue.
One other question on this here too. I want to ask about the college protests. You faced some criticism from college protesters. What's your message to them as you watch these happen all across the country?
Look, I have been clear that we hear them, and I want them to know that we hear them. I have, I spent a part of my life when I was on that side of protest, and I ask myself now that I'm on this side, what would I want to hear from me? And what I want to hear is that I'm being heard, and I want the students to know that they are being heard. At the same time, we have to be clear that they can't use violence as a means of getting their message across. Demonstrations are a part of our history, and that is something we all support. Violent demonstrations are another story.
Let me ask you about something that you spent a career trying to work on. That's famine and food insecurity. I read something preparing for the interview I didn't realize, and that is there is no reason a continent of Africa can't grow enough food for itself. What is the U.S. doing to try to develop that? Because for decades we have seen the famine and food insecurities there.
You know, we're working very, very closely with our African partners to work with them to develop mechanisms, to develop policies and resources that will allow them to grow the food that they need. And part of this conference that I'm here in Dallas to attend, the Africa Business Summit, is about partnering with Africans, partnering with the private sector to help Africa do what we think they have the resources actually to accomplish.
You're also in Dallas to give an introduction to former President George W. Bush.
I'm delighted to have been asked to do that.
Well, you worked for President Biden, but you said that George W. Bush made an impact on your career. Can you tell me about the first time you met him?
I was the Deputy Assistant Secretary in the Bureau for Africa, handling Liberia. And the president of Liberia was coming for a meeting with the president, first woman elected on the continent of Africa. And Condi Rice invited me to come in to brief the president. And I was nervous, I was excited. And when I walked in the door, he saluted, and I was just, it was a pinchable moment, as I say. And I have worked with him since, and he has been an extraordinary person. He nominated me to be ambassador to Liberia. He visited Liberia and other parts of Africa several times, both when he was president and since he left the presidency. So he's revered on the continent.
I want to zoom out also and have you answer a question about why does what you do at the UN matter to people in Texas? Why should they be so interested in your position and your positions there on the Security Council?
Look, we deal with broad issues of peace and security, and we really fight to bring American values to the table. When I look at the situation in Ukraine, we are working to isolate the Russians, and successfully we're able to do that because we're fighting for democracy, and the Ukrainians are on the forefront of the fight for democracy, and that is a fight that we are leading on and in the United Nations, and it's something that I think is important for Americans to know.
There's a lot of hot spots in the world right now, though. Mm-hmm. how do you keep them in line and focus on the most important?
They're all important. I always say it's the crisis of the crisis, the priorities of the priorities. We're dealing with the situation in Sudan as we see the fighting there continue. Gaza, of course, is on the front burner. Ukraine continues to be on the front burner.
Taiwan.
And Taiwan, you have to be constantly engaged on all of these issues.
What keeps you up at night?
Wow, that's it's the next crisis. It's a tough question. I'm already awake at night because of current crises, but we don't know where the next one will be. We don't know when the next natural disaster is going to occur and where it's going to occur. We don't know when the next pandemic will happen, and we don't know where the next conflict will break out. So I have a lot of sleepless nights, and I have a lot of very, very active days.
Out of curiosity, how do you unwind with the world seemingly on your shoulders and trying to keep the peace?
You know, that's a great question as well. I love to cook. And when I was Assistant Secretary for Africa, I told everyone I would come home at 10 o'clock at night and put on a pot of red beans, and they take 2 hours to cook. And everybody's like, you put on red beans at 10 o'clock at night? And I'm like, oh, like chopping onions really relaxes me. And I'll take them to work the next day. You know, I talk about gumbo diplomacy. So cooking relaxes me, and it really gives me a sense of being normal.
Madam Ambassador, we appreciate the time.
Thank you very much.